Today we are making a trophy for a golf team out of this knotty log. Since there's several knots that are coming at me here, I was a little afraid to use a normal roughing gouge, so I'm using a bowl gouge here to take care of those knotted areas. And this made the process much slower, so I'm going to speed this up for you. It's starting to take shape, a very slow process, but you can see all the knots on here. I realize this video is not going to be one of the more exciting videos to watch, but kind of wanted to show as much of the footage as possible just to show how difficult and how slow some processes or some projects can be. This one became a lot slower because of the size and just because of the difficulty of the wood that I was making this out of. I knew it had knots in it, but some of the knots in the finished product you can see made it very difficult. If you watch some of my other videos, I talk a lot about slicing cuts, and I talk a lot about peeling cuts. Well, peeling cuts are very fast. They remove a lot of material fast, and these knots coming at me made peeling the wood pretty impossible. So that just makes the wood removal very slow, both on the outside of this project and also on the inside of this project. So probably could have used a different piece of wood, but this is what the customer wanted me to use, and I'll be honest, once I did finish it, it was a pretty amazing, pretty beautiful project. I was very happy with it. The customer was happy with it, so I'm glad I stuck with it. But this was difficult wood to turn. as we're watching this trophy take shape. Just let me know if there are any specific type of videos that you would like to see. I kind of finished, I believe, the intro to the wood turning fundamentals series. Probably going to add a sharpening video on how to sharpen tools. I don't make that too complicated. It probably won't be a series of videos, but who knows. Let me know, though, if there's something specific that I didn't cover very well in the how-to or woodworking fundamentals series that would be beneficial to you. I'd be glad to try to put a video together, even if it's just short, for something that maybe I mentioned in another video that maybe it just didn't make total sense to you and you needed a little bit of clarification. Let me know. I'll try my best to do that for you. Here I was just cutting off the last little bit that I didn't part off of the tenon there. So now I have a tenon that I can put on the chuck. Now, this whole thing was difficult because there were so many knots coming at me. Even though this is spindle work, it has end grain coming at you here, so you can't just turn it like most spindle work. And you're gonna see I have a catch here. Honestly, I didn't. You can tell I didn't like that. Looked like it hit my finger somehow, and it hurt. I remember that it hurt, and you can see the where the gouge caught, and then you can see the swirl up there, and it was right in end grain. You can see right there at the well, I rotated it, but there's a big knot. There's another knot right there on that flat spot. So I probably got the tip involved too much, but I'm not sure. I couldn't tell from the tool. And here I have a Forstner bit and a Jacob's chuck, and I'll be honest, I never really enjoyed this method. Don't think I use it too long, and I switched to gouges again. I actually switched to one of the carbide tools that I have, the Easy roughing gouge, I think it is. It's just a square-tipped carbide scraper. And since there's so many knots in this thing, it made it hard to use peeling cuts with any type of gouge in there. So this is probably the tool I stick with, maybe switch to the round one occasionally. Here I'm just painting the end grain here with some Elmer's school glue to keep the ends from drying too much, because I really think this board wasn't as dry as the guy told me it was. So just a little precaution here to try to keep it from cracking while I'm doing the turning. Put this bag over it to keep it from drying because I didn't finish it that day and had to come back the next day. finishing up the turning here, and I forgot to record the sanding, but there was a decent amount of sanding that I had to do with all of those knots. The turning was not perfect right off of the tool edge, so there was some boring sanding in here. I wouldn't say it was several hours or anything like that, but probably a good half hour to an hour of sanding through the grits. And then I had to mount it to a base. Customer wanted a square base, so I had a piece of curly maple and he wanted it dark, so I ended up staining that in a walnut stain. And I put a mortise in the block of wood, and so the trophy tenon fit right in the mortise, and put one screw in case the base ever needed changed out. Could change that out in the future, no problem. But here it is. This is the maple base, and there's the finished product with the walnut stained base. It looked really good. One of the more difficult projects, to be honest, because of all of those knots. Well, I finished this trophy. It was actually one of the harder projects that I've ever actually did. Probably the urn that I made was a little harder than this, but what made this trophy very difficult was the wood at the top. As you can see here, this is a giant knot, and I actually turned it and this shrunk. I mean, this is a big indention. And so instead of turning that out, I actually left it. It really looks pretty cool, but I had to dry it slowly with a lot of wax and things over the end grain, even wrapping it in plastic at times to try to slow down the drying and to prevent it from cracking. And I was actually pretty successful, but it took about a year to do. There's knots down in here. You can see that indention in that big knot. So it's a big long knot there. There's knots right in here. We got a knot here that actually cracked. I filled that up with a little bit of black epoxy. Looks pretty cool. And then there's some neat grains in here, and even some of this is like curly, and it's not round anymore. So when this thing dried, it really shrunk, and it kind of looks cool though. So I kept it that way. This is going to be for a local golf team, actually a local golf tournament with several high school teams to kind of, pass from year to year on who wins the tournaments. I think that's pretty cool, but I think they'll like it. It's going to look good on a bookshelf, on a trophy shelf somewhere.